Our very first time to go to any Walt Disney World park was Animal Kingdom for a special event. And it was a neat first trip. Our very first trip to any Walt Disney World park was to Animal Kingdom for a special event that most people didn't even get to see, let alone know about or do. And it was a magical trip. Back in 2006, we had been living in Florida for about 2 years over in Tampa. I was working in Busch Gardens at the time, and we had been to pretty much every major theme park in Florida at that point. Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, Busch Gardens, of course, since I was working there, Cypress Gardens, which is now Legoland, but there was one group of parks that we had not been to yet, and that was Walt Disney World. My wife and I were both teachers, and it was just expensive and really kind of outside the budget of what we were able to afford at that time. We honestly didn't know how we were going to be able to afford it, but hey, it's Disney World. Of course we wanted to go. At that point in February of 2006, an opportunity came up for us. We were members of the Florida Coaster Club and loved joining them for different events. Well, one of the guys in the Florida Coaster Club actually had a connection with a company that provided background extras for movies and commercials and things like that. And they were shooting commercials and media footage for Expedition Everest, which was just getting ready to open, and needed people to ride the coaster. Hey, you bet we're available for that. We actually got on this list of being able to be background extras. And I talk a little bit more about that in another video called How I Got on TV. But needless to say, we got on this list, and in mid-February on a Tuesday, I was able to grab my kids. My wife wasn't able to go because she couldn't get off of work. But I basically told my boss, hey, I'm leaving, and so are my kids this day. Cover me if you want. Oh well, wasn't going to miss it. And we drove out to Animal Kingdom. We had to get there really early. We were actually pulling into the parking lot at 5:30 in the morning. Our casting call, which is the time you're supposed to be there, was 6:15. But coming from Tampa, I didn't know how long the drive would be or what traffic would be like. And having never been to Disney World, I wanted to make sure I was able to even find my way to get how I was going to get there. Because it was a little confusing. In fact, I actually remember from the drive that morning that I made one mistake. I didn't put gas in the car the day before. And at 5:30 in the morning, there weren't very many gas stations open, and I-4, there were even fewer. And I was actually coming into Disney World as my fuel light was coming on, and I didn't know where any gas stations were. So there was this little bit of panic as you're getting there going, okay, what happens if we run out of gas on the way? That part worked out, and after the park, we were able to get to a gas station just fine. But it was a little concern. At 5:30 in the morning, though, it happened to be a day where the fog was sitting in. It wasn't quite on the ground level, but just above, and it was just this beautiful atmosphere. We checked in at the gate, and about 6:15, we had a pretty good crew. We all filled out our paperwork, and they started walking us back with the film crew and all the extras. And as you walked into the park and up towards the Tree of Life and Discovery Island, everything is shrouded in fog. It's quiet. There's not people around except for us. And just a beautiful moment to look out and go, wow. What a pretty park. Now, it would definitely change later on in the day when all the guests got there, and it got really crowded later on that day. But for us at that time in the morning, it was just this beautiful, serene setting. We walked over to Expedition Everest, and we all got ready. And again, it's about 6:15, 6:30. If you've ever done any film shooting at all, you know there's a lot of waiting around while they try to get the lights positioned and the cameras positioned. And especially when you've got a roller coaster, they're trying to make sure that the cameras are locked onto the train just right. It's not going to move, and they've got the right lighting and the right angles. So they're trying to get all this set up while we all basically sat around and went, which we kind of knew we would be doing. It was kind of nice in one way because Expedition Everest has this really neat queue area that tells the story of the ride and the Yeti and everything there. And so we had plenty of time to be able to walk around through the queue and just kind of explore everything while we waited. And they would get one train of people off, and then we'd wait for another 15, 20 minutes. And then they'd send another train. And eventually my son got picked because they're looking for attractive, cute people, and they thought my son was kind of cute. So they actually threw him up on the second row of the train, and sent him out on a ride. Now, he's the youngest one, and if anybody was a little nervous on coasters, it was him. And he gets to go on Expedition Everest while his sister and I are standing on the side going, hi. He came back and he loved it. And we're kind of telling him, don't tell us anything because we're going to ride. Well, eventually, over the course of the 4 hours, they got the footage they wanted. And they made sure that everybody got at least 2 rides in. My poor son, they put him on this one. They loved him so much. They were actually about to put him on the front row right in front of the camera. So that way he would have been on TV where everybody would have seen instead of just like the little sliver of his head. And then they looked at the footage they had inside. You know what? We got what we need. That's good. He was that close to being on TV. Didn't make it. Ugh. Missed it by that much. After they had gotten their footage done, though, they decided that they were very grateful. Our pay for the day was actually tickets to come back to a Disney park, any of the Disney World parks, later on in the year. Sweet! We can handle that. Plus, we got to go out and enjoy Animal Kingdom the rest of the day. It was about 10:15 in the morning, so it wasn't that long after they had opened, and it meant we got turned loose. Now, it was a crowded day, but we still had plenty of time to be able to go check out Dino Land, ride Dinosaur, which scared my kids a little bit. Went over to It's Tough to Be a Bug. Then from there, we actually waited in line to go on the safari, which was really cool. And just got to explore the park. We're big zoo people, which if you saw my video from earlier this summer on the Dallas Zoo, you would know that. We love zoos, so we had a great time enjoying all the animals. But we actually had another really neat highlight later on in the day. The parade at Animal Kingdom at that time was at 5 o'clock. And with the crowds, and we had gotten to see a lot of what we wanted to, we went and we actually sat down waiting for the parade at 4 o'clock. Going to take it a little easy. We had some pizza. We're sitting over by Camp Mini Mickey, which actually is now where Pandora is. And as we're waiting, my kids, being kids, were sitting on a planter, and they began to reach into the planter and start taking the leaves and twigs and other things, and they begin to make these little flags out of them. And as we're sitting there waiting, they just kind of start doing what kids do. Yay, Animal Kingdom! Yay! Well, as we're sitting there and the kids are doing that and they're having fun, one of the cast members who's actually worked the parade route notices this. It's actually one of the managers. And walks over and just has to see what's going on and look at what they're doing. And loved what they were doing. Thought this was really cool. And in talking with the manager said, you know what? I love this so much. Can I have those? And my kids are kind of going, well, okay, it's leaves. She says, I'll tell you what, I'll even trade you for them. Here's what I want you to do. And she actually pulls out a pen and has my kids write their names on them and then where they were from, which was Brandon, Florida at the time, and then gives each of them a pin in trade for their little flags. So this was the very first pins that my kids got at Walt Disney World, was actually freebies given by a cast member while waiting for the parade. Now, I don't know which one's my son's offhand, and he's at college back again, so I don't have access to his. But my daughter still has hers, and this is actually her pin. She still actually got her pin. Notice it's a Tinkerbell with the flowers on there. Her very first Disney World pin in trade for a flag. Now, I don't know if that manager is still there, so if there's a manager at Disney World that has little flags made out of grass and leaves and sticks that are signed by an Amber and Joseph Burnash, hey, that's us! And my kids would think that would be really cool if somebody still got them. Although I can't imagine they wouldn't have thrown it away now after 11 years. But just a really neat moment made magical by a cast member doing something just a little special and different that they didn't have to do. Like I said, here we are 11 years later, and it's still one of our fondest memories of one of our trips to Disney. Now, that doesn't mean that if your kids make a flag waiting for a parade that they're going to get to trade for a pin. Don't expect that. But it was a really neat, magical moment. And one that just kind of made the day even more special. So thanks for watching this little look back at our first time into a Walt Disney World park and a couple of the magical moments that we experienced. I hope it kind of gives you a little inspiration for maybe making a little magic while you're at Walt Disney World as well. Please don't forget to like the video. If you've got a magical moment, too, that you got to experience, I'd love to hear it. Share that in the comments below. And be sure to share this on all your social media as well. Thank you as well to all my patrons for supporting me. They're a wonderful blessing, and I couldn't do stuff like this without them. So thank you so much to my patrons. If you want to know more about Patreon, check the links in the description. There's also links there to my Facebook page, my Reddit, as well as to my store where you can buy merchandise with my logo and things on it. Thank you so much for watching.